Hello, everyone. My name is Jin Pa, and my colleague, the brilliant Stan. And
as Jin said, today we're here to talk about the Salesforce Adaptor in Oracle Integration Cloud. And specifically, we're going to be talking about the adapter being used as a trigger to an OIC integration. So really enabling real-time use cases from Salesforce. And so today we'll talk about the three capabilities that we have of using the Salesforce Adaptor as a trigger. And we'll start with outbound messaging, Jin.
oh, okay. So trigger means something happened in Salesforce, then that will trigger OIC to start something.
Exactly. It's effectively
okay.
like a HTTP listener that's
Okay.
going to invoke an integration.
Very interesting. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start off with outbound messaging. So outbound messaging is a process that you would go through in Salesforce to define. You would probably start with a workflow, Jen. So a workflow is basically a set of rules that will trigger an event, if you will. So you can pick a Salesforce object like accounts or contact or opportunities. You can define custom criteria for when an event should be triggered. So for example, you know, if you want to only send the event when an opportunity is closed, you can do that. So yeah, you would define the object, you would define the criteria, and then you would define an action. And that action can vary, but in this particular case, what we're talking about is outbound messaging, which means that when this criteria is met, Salesforce is going to send an outbound message, which is something else that you need to configure, which will in turn send that payload to your client.
That's good.
Yeah, so a couple of things around outbound messaging. So in here, this is where you will need to define your client's endpoint. In our case, that will be an OIC endpoint of an integration that we activate. And you can also define which fields you want to send out of that base object, if you will.
Okay.
Now, once you do that, that will generate a WSDL, which you need to actually import into the OIC Salesforce Adaptor in your integration to actually receive, you know, those messages from this outbound messaging service.
Okay. So all the steps you just mentioned, so it can be done without any tooling, but by doing that for developer, it has to arrange everything, right? Like getting WSDL, starting point is getting WSDL, managing credential for Salesforce, and then providing endpoint, right? Then how we can do it easily by OIC? That's what you're gonna say, right?
Exactly, and we'll show that in a demo in just a little while. But from a development point of view, just a couple of highlights as to when you should use this. So obviously it allows you to do real-time synchronization from Salesforce. But the other key advantage is that it's quite customizable and it's no code. It's a no-code approach, right? You can configure all of this through Salesforce, just through the UI that will kick off these messages and OIC will receive it.
Okay.
On the downside, Jin, because we need to actually grab this outbound messaging WSDL and import it into our integration, that is an additional step that you need to kind of go through. But also, anytime that you change the message structure, for example, if you add a new field that you then want to send to OIC as part of this flow, then you need to re-export the message WSDL and re-import it into your integration to pick up that new field.
So okay, let me recap. So in this outbound message use case, the developer has to regenerate WSDL if there's any new or change it, like element or data, then that has to be propagated to OIC first, and then the further change can be made on OIC side.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. And I think the other thing to look out for is that it does kind of enforce a little bit of tighter coupling, because in Salesforce, you literally keep the client's endpoint. So that's the OIC integration. So you just kind of need to be aware of that. There is also some, good things that we haven't talked about. Things like, messages are persisted in Salesforce for a 24-hour period. There's a mechanism to retry failed messages. So there is a bit of message durability with this approach as well that you can explore, but they're the kind of high level things to look out for.
Okay. Very good to know.
So Jen, next we should probably have a quick chat about platform events. So the Oracle Salesforce Adaptor also supports platform events.
Okay.
So platform events are event messages that your apps or Salesforce can either send or receive depending on your use case. So just as a bit of a highlight, these are events that are completely custom. They're not based on standard objects. You can define the payload and you can define the trigger for these events. So you're in the driver's seat. So one flow that you could do is you could publish within Salesforce a custom event when something occurs, and you could use a downstream subscriber like OIC to receive it. Another use case might be that you have a mobile app that's actually publishing these events to Salesforce, and then Salesforce is ingesting these events. So it gives you a lot of flexibility around, who can publish and who can subscribe.
Okay.
And you're in the driver's seat as far as what the payload is and what triggers the event.
Okay, so what it means, like, developer can define their own event and then publish to the Salesforce message bus.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so, and in this case, OIC can act as a subscriber to this bus. So that could be, anything that's occurring within Salesforce and in this custom flow, we can actually subscribe to. But I think from a use case, the key thing is these are not standard objects that you want to subscribe to. These are custom flows that are defined within Salesforce that you'll be pulling out. And so from a quick highlight of pros and cons. So from an architecture point of view, this is quite a bit different to outbound messaging because it uses event-driven semantics, kind of the pub sub model that we're all used to, which bringing in more of a decoupled architecture. As we said, it's all about customization as far as your own payload and trigger conditions. It's highly scalable and durable. But I think the one thing to look out for is that it can have a bit of a higher barrier of entry as far as adoption if you're not familiar with the Salesforce ecosystem. So if you're an Oracle integration developer and you want to use this for the first time, there's a little bit of a learning curve that you kind of need to go through.
That means like it is very flexible, but that means the developer has to know what needs to be tuned, what needs to be touched.
Exactly.
Okay. So it's kind of like next generation or the event compared to the previous one you mentioned, outbound messaging.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And that kind of brings us to the final option that we have from an OIC point of view as far as consumption, which is change data capture events. Now, change data capture events are quite similar in architecture to what we talked about in platform events, leveraging the Salesforce event bus, but there's a very key difference here. So unlike platform events, which were more based on application logic, CDC events are notifications that result from CRUD operations. So create, read, update, delete operations against Salesforce objects. So if you want to just get changes on out of the box Salesforce object like opportunities or accounts or contacts, this is the approach, a good approach to do that.
Okay. So sounds like more to data-oriented change compared to the platform one.
Exactly. And because of this, these events will actually tell you, okay, has the object been created? Has the object been changed? And if it's changed, it will tell you which fields have changed. So you kind of get that level of visibility as well. As part of the service.
So how about like in real world, real business? So you can't just have like the data-oriented event capture facility, right? Because your business is different from others, and that means like you need to mix and match with this platform event and CDC and even outbound messaging. And using OIC, it can be done in just one play, is it?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, we can leverage all three depending on the use case you have. And like you just said, a lot of use cases might require that you leverage one or more of these options.
Okay, that's good.
So a lot of good things with CDC. I guess the one thing to kind of keep in mind is that not all of the default objects might have a CDC event that you can consume. At least at this point, from the play that we've had, we've kind of seen a couple of, I guess, child objects that we haven't been able to extract CDC events for. So I hope that kind of gives everyone a high-level summary of the options and when you should use each one of these. Shall we go and do a bit of a deep dive on each of these, Jin?
Yeah, I really want to see what really can be done by using those three patterns, right? Yeah.
All right, so if we start with outbound messaging, we actually have a very small demo here to show you an example of this. So what we'll do is we'll walk through the setup that's required in Salesforce. So here we'll create a workflow rule on an opportunity. We'll apply some filter criteria on that rule, and then we'll set up an outbound message, which will deliver these opportunities to Oracle integration.
Yeah, okay. So I see this quite common use case, right? Getting something from CRM and then pushing to ERP. So yeah, okay.
Exactly. And then we'll talk about the OIC setup, what we've done in OIC to configure OIC to receive these messages. And in this particular case, OIC, we actually push them to a backend ERP, as you said, which is NetSuite.
Okay.
And so hopefully that will give everyone a very high level overview of what this.
I really want to hear further and see.
Let's first start off in Salesforce.
Okay.
And let's have a quick look at the workflow rule. Okay, so.
And we are in the UI of Salesforce at the moment. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so Jen, here we have a workflow rule. So let's quickly open this. And what we'll see in the workflow rule is that this, well, most importantly, that this workflow rule is based on a object out of Salesforce. This happens to be the opportunity object. When you create a workflow rule, you can choose out of the available objects in Salesforce. So this is on the opportunity object, and what we're saying is, hey, anytime an opportunity is created or it's edited, as long as it meets this criteria, then this rule will be triggered. So you can see here, you can define criteria. So for example, in my case, I'm saying only fire this message if the opportunity is one and the backend ERP system happens to be. Define a workflow rule, and then once you've defined the rule, Jen, you need to define an action. So what should happen when this rule is met? And in this particular case, what we're saying is we're going to define an action, which is an outbound message. And so if we have a look at this outbound message, what you'll see is that as part of this setup, we've number one selected all the fields that we want to send as part of the message. And so you can see here, you can even send custom fields, etc. But the second main thing is that we need to actually put in the endpoint of our OIC integration. So we'll talk about the OIC side in a second, but this is where you'll need to put in your. Then the other key thing that I wanted to mention is you can see once you define this outbound message, Salesforce will generate a WSDL for and this is the WSDL that we'll need to take and import into Oracle integration as part of to configure. So let me just go into that integration.
Okay, so now we are in the Oracle Integration Cloud.
Yep.
Okay.
And Jen, here I have this integration, which is listening to this outbound message that we just saw, which was configured in Salesforce. And at a very high level, what this integration does is it receives a one opportunity from Salesforce. Then it checks if the customer exists in the backend ERP system. If the customer doesn't, we'll go ahead and get some more information from Salesforce and create it. And finally, we push that sales order into the ERP system. And then we go back to Salesforce and update it with the order number from the backend ERP system. So that if you're in Salesforce, you can see a correlation between your opportunity and the sales order in the ERP system.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So let's explore this adapter just quickly and talk about the setup that has happened as part of OIC. So here's the Salesforce Adaptor configuration wizard. And you can see that we're using outbound messaging. Okay. So as part of outbound messaging, what you'll need to do is you'll need to select that WSDL file that we just saw that Salesforce provides and upload it into the integration so that we can actually listen for those type of messages.
Got it. So that WSDL was previously created from Salesforce.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's it. Once we do this, we activate our integration. We'll then get the OIC endpoint, which we'll need to provide to Salesforce, right? So once the integration is done, you would go.
So we just manipulate the configuration, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, very easy. That's good.
100%. And you can see that, you know, when you activate your integration, we'll get an URL.
There.
And this is what you put into Salesforce.
So that goes back to Salesforce we just talked about.
Yeah, you put that in the outbound message configuration. Yep. So now let's actually see this in action, Jin. If we go to an opportunity. Let's just open one up. All right. So from a clean slate now, Jen, we're in Salesforce. We're about to showcase this demo of the outbound messaging, and we're here at an opportunity within Salesforce. So if you remember, our criteria for this was that the opportunity must be enclosed one. And the backend ERP system needs to be NetSuite. In case it is. So.
Oh, okay, something's moving, something's happening.
That's right.
Okay.
We've updated this opportunity record. And now if I go back to my integration platform, OIC, let me just go into the monitoring side. So I expect to now see the fact that OIC has, here you go, Jen. So OIC has received an event from Salesforce. We can have a quick look at the message that we actually got. So here, if I go on the first step, you'll see that here we're receiving an opportunity. And indeed, it was this opportunity that we just updated a second ago. All of the fields that we specified as part of that outbound message.
Okay, that's good.
Displayed here. And, you know, within Oracle Integration Cloud, we can even go into an instance and see the exact path that a particular instance run took.
Okay.
So you could see here's our integration, and this is exactly the steps that were executed, and we have, you know, a log of what happened at every point in time.
Wow, so it is showing what it happened like visually, and then you just show that payload as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, easy to see what's happening. Absolutely. So, Jen, next we'll do change data capture. So we're going to demonstrate how you would set up OIC. This is even easier, Jen. All we need to do is just enable a Salesforce object for CDC within Salesforce, and then we can just consume it directly from OIC with that same Salesforce adapter that we saw before.
Okay.
in this particular case, let's change things up. Instead of opportunities, let's actually synchronize a Salesforce case
Yep.
to a Jira issue. So we can do that with this CDC style approach, and that will make sure that anytime the Salesforce cases are created or updated, our Jira issues will be in sync with what's happening in Salesforce.
Okay, so for this use case, I would say, like, from Salesforce as CRM, user raised something and then ticket needs to be like raised. So by doing that, Jira is integrated to do that by OIC.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So that means, like, if we have adapter for example, ServiceNow, we can just do it with ServiceNow in this pattern.
Exactly, Jen. Perfect. Spot on.
Okay. Keep going. Yeah.
All right. Let's go back into my browser. This time we'll go back into the setup menu of Salesforce and look for change data capture.
Okay.
So in here, Jen, this is very simple. All you need to do is just select the Salesforce objects or entities that you want to publish for CDC. In our case, we're going to be focused on the case, so you can see the case is selected. This will ensure that CDC changes are published for this object, and now any subscribers can actually consume these changes. So from a Salesforce point of view, this is all you need to do is just add the object in here. The next bit of configuration comes in OIC. So let's talk through that quickly. So if I go back to my integrations, and Jen, I'm just going to create a new version of this integration just so I can show you what it looks like in design time.
Yeah. Happy to see. Yeah.
All right. So very simple integration here, where as we mentioned, just synchronizing this cases. And so what you'll see is, again, our flow started with the Salesforce Adaptor. So that's the Salesforce Adaptor being used as a trigger. If we open the adapter and have a look at the config, you'll notice that here we're now using the streaming API.
So the different paths. Okay.
Yes.
Streaming API. Okay.
Streaming API, and within streaming API, we have two options, Jin. Either platform events or CDC events.
Oh yeah. You explained two other patterns about platform and CDC. Oh, there we go.
Exactly. And so in this particular case, we're using CDC, and we want to receive create and update events. So we could choose all of the CRUD operations, but this is the ones that we're choosing. And as you can see, I have a pick list now of all of the Salesforce objects that we expose via Salesforce. So in this particular case,
so those three you exactly enable from Salesforce side.
Exactly, and that's what we can see now here in OIC. So super simple. From an OIC point of view, that's all you need to do, and now you start receiving events anytime a case is created or updated.
Okay.
And then from a flow point of view, just as a high-level summary, we look at the event type. Maybe we should actually show this because it's actually important to see what type of information you'll get from Salesforce when you receive an event. So Jin, here you can see the payload of the event. This will contain all of the things related to the object that we expose. In our case, this is the case object. And if we actually open the change event handler, so if this was a change, we will see the actual changed fields, etc. So you kind of get the history of exactly what's happened at any point in time. And so in this flow, we're actually just using some of this to drive what the integration should do. For example, if this is a creation of a new case, we're going to create an incident in Jira via the Jira adapter. If this is an update to an existing case, then, well, we'll just go actually and update that incident in Jira.
So the logic is looking at change event type, whether creation or something else, then it follows the flow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's really it, Jin. Shall we do a demo of this?
Yeah,
to see?
show me.
Okay, so let's go to a case in Salesforce, and actually let's just create a new one.
Yeah, yeah. So someone will complain something, so then case will be logic.
Exactly. Yes. So here we go. So we're going to create a case.
Okay, okay.
In here, we're going to create this case as type bug. Just give a case reason. This doesn't really matter. You'll see here the Jira issue ID. This is a
Yeah,
custom
I'm
field.
just about to ask. So doesn't look like the out of box object, right? Field.
Yeah, no, this is a custom field that we created, Jin.
Okay, okay.
And we'll see this populated after the integration runs.
Okay.
Okay, so here let's put in a subject. Let's just say something like laptop runs very slow. And then in here, maybe we can say laptop runs very slow when application XYZ is running. So there we go. We've created a case. I'll click save. And now this should trigger a CDC event,
Okay.
which OIC should receive and propagate to Jira. So again, if we jump into OIC,
Yeah.
Oh, there we go, Jin.
Wow.
That's already fired. And in fact, you know, if I open this up, you'll be able to see that we got an event. Here we go. Laptops runs very slow. All the details around for that case.
I see the change type is create. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. And if I scroll down a little bit further, we'll see that we send this message to Jira, and Jira replied back saying, hey, your Jira ticket is Jin-27. So if I go into Jira Jin and maybe I'm timed out. No, I'm still there. Jin-27.
Oh, okay. So it just created.
Yeah, exactly. Here's now our issue. And you can see the description that we gave it. The summary, we assigned it to someone. And the Salesforce case is even here too.
It's there. Okay, okay.
That's right. So now if we go to Salesforce and we open this again, you can see that the Jira issue is also being populated as part of this.
Okay, so it captured the key information for ticket from Jira and put here.
Exactly. So that was it, Jen. That's change data capture.
Yeah, it was awesome to see the case was generated from Salesforce, and then immediately the information replicated in Jira as a ticket. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
All right. So now let's finish off this session by talking about platform events through a demo.
Yeah.
So, Jen, platform events, we need to do a bit more setup in Salesforce.
Yeah.
So we need to do two things there. We need to create a platform event object, and then in this particular case, we actually use Salesforce to publish this custom platform event through the Flow Builder functionality. So we'll show Flow Builder in a second, but that effectively allows us to create our own custom process within Salesforce. And in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to say anytime a comment against the case is updated, we want an event to be published, a platform event to be published, and then OIC will subscribe to this platform event and push it into Jira.
So compared to the previous change data capture, that change data capture is more generous pattern, and platform event is more user specific defined pattern, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Spot on. Okay. So let's start by going into Salesforce and having a look at the setup that we need to do for this. So as part of this, you'll need to define a platform event.
Oh, okay.
And so in here, Jen, you can see I've defined an event for case comment.
Yep.
And as part of this event, Jen, I've defined 3 custom fields. One which will hold the Jira key, so we know which Jira issue we need to update. And another which will hold the comment body.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've defined these custom fields for this event, but now what we'll actually write to this event? Well, in here, what we're doing, Jen, is we're using the flow builder capability within Salesforce.
Yep.
And we've defined a custom process. So this custom process is going to be based on the case comment object within Salesforce. And in this particular case, we're going to trigger it anytime a record is created or updated.
Yep.
With no additional criteria. We can define additional criteria, but we haven't.
Yep.
So anytime a comment is created or updated against the case, this will trigger. And in here, Jen, we could define different flow tasks and actions. But in our case, all we're doing is we're going to create a record on to the platform event.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So if I open this up, you'll see the setup. Basically, what we're saying is whenever a change occurs, create an event.
Yep. Object called case command, and then the fields are the 3 of them like that. Wow.
Yeah. So we've mapped the custom fields that we defined as part of our platform event object to the values from the Salesforce objects.
The parent case, right? Yeah.
The actual, exactly.
Okay.
And so that's it. Then we've activated this. And so now let's talk through the integration side, and then we'll come back and actually run the demo.
Yeah, so it looks like the more knowledge required compared to CDC definition.
Yes, you do need to do, exactly. And there's so many different ways in which you can write to it too.
Okay.
We're just showing probably the simplest one there. So again, I'm going to just open this up in a new version.
But the OIC, the perspective is the same, like part of streaming and then just selection of CDC or platform even.
Exactly. 100%. So the experience is very similar.
Okay.
So in here, we have a very simple integration, which will just synchronize comments. Yeah.
Okay.
And if I open this, again, this is Salesforce Adaptor. We're leveraging the streaming API.
Streaming. And then
as part of that, this time we've selected platform events.
Okay.
And now we see the case comment event that we created in Salesforce.
Wow.
And that's it, Jen.
It's quite intuitive about, like the stepping forward from Adaptor tells me what I need to select and what is the available. Well, that's good.
Yeah, 100%. And this time, if I open up the mapper, then what we can see is a payload containing those fields that we actually defined.
That's what has been defined over there in Salesforce. Wow.
Exactly. So now maybe we should run a Jen. So we created this before.
Yep.
This case. And let's add a comment to it. So we could say something like any update on the status of my laptop. And so now we expect another OIC integration to fire, and there we go. That's already triggered Jen and sent it to Jira. Yeah, exactly. So again, we can have a look at the payload. And if I open up the payload, you'll see that the custom fields have been populated by Salesforce, and they're carrying all of the bits of data that I need, right?
The command you exactly type over there. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. 100%. So if I go now to the same ticket, just refresh it. In Jira, we should see the comment.
27.
There we go. Any
Oh,
update on my
wow,
laptop?
7 seconds ago. Mhm.
Yeah, and then we can add as many as we want in here, Jin. I could say, have a good day. And we should see all of this synchronization happening pretty quickly now.
So I can imagine like the customer who has maybe ServiceNow or Zendesk, they can do same things with Salesforce CRM, raising event over there and then carry forward to your own SaaS platform, etc.
Yeah, it lets us even establish a communication channel between the people in the CRM and the people that are actually handling the service requests in Jira or ServiceNow, because they can talk via chat in the two different applications, but Oracle integration is actually synchronizing these changes behind the scenes between both apps.
And even we haven't showed this, but like right now, information flow from CRM to like ticket management systems, but we can show like backward as well, right? Push back.
Absolutely. Yes, we could go the other way around, starting from ServiceNow or from Jira or whatever. Yep.
Okay. So the Salesforce Adaptor, what I remember, I only remember, the outbound messaging as like generation 1 type, but today I knew about platform event and then CDC. So those are very useful pattern, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And it really depends on what use case you have. So for any Oracle integration developers out there, you might need to use one or more of these options depending on the use case that you actually have. Yep.
And what are we going to show for next time? Are we planning more?
We are, Jen. So we're starting a series to talk about application events. We started off with Salesforce. We're going to do a whole bunch more. Obviously, we'll cover some of the Oracle SaaS applications in the next sessions.
Yeah.
We want to give a bit of a coverage of a lot of the applications that OIC supports application events for, like we saw today. So platform events is our first season of these videos. We plan to cover security concepts and common use cases in the following season. There's a lot to talk about in that particular subject. And then we have another 3 or 4 subjects lined up after that, covering various areas. But yeah, always happy to also take feedback from the general community if there's something that they want to see.
Yeah.
To cover it. It's been fun, Jen. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.